Bonjour, welcome to Wahsa Citizen Education Center's radio Zoom classes. This is MEL3E, grade 11 workplace math, and I am Bronwyn Slate. If you'd like to participate live today, you're welcome to call the Wahsa studio at 1-800-465-7144 or 737-4017. You can listen on the radio at 91.9 FM or on the television at Bell Express U channel 972. You're always welcome to join me live through the Zoom link, which is available from me, your teacher, and also your DEC. Our classes are scheduled from 9 to 10 in the morning on Monday through Thursday, and we are wrapping up our second week of our 9-week course. It's good to know what work to submit for marking. So the ones that are support questions, the ones marked in your IL booklet with the pencil icon, are not for marking. Those are practice questions. So you decide which ones and how many to do. If you're understanding a concept, feel free to skip questions. That's fine. If you need more practice and you're confused or you need some support with something, let me know and I can send you more practice problems. The key questions, the ones marked with the key icon, are the ones to submit for grading. So please do all of those questions showing all of your work, your steps, your thinking. This way I can understand everything that you understand. And if you're struggling with anything, that gives me a chance to figure out what it is that you're struggling with and help you correct any errors or any misunderstandings. There are 3 methods for submitting your work. The first method is to scan your work in and send electronically. So you can scan your completed work in through a smartphone. If you have an iPhone, the Notes app has a scan function. And if you have an Android phone, the Google Drive app has a scan function. So you can use either of those. If you need support with that, let me know, then I can help you out. If you don't have a smartphone and you just want to take pictures, that's okay too. They're going to be bigger files and a little bit harder to send, but that's still fine if that's what you need to do. Then you can either email it to me at studentwork@nnec.on.ca and CC it to bronwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca, or you can send it to me through Facebook Messenger at bslatewahsa. Second method is to drop your work off in Sioux Lookout. So we have an outdoor mailbox at our location 74 Front Street. We're the big red building next to the post office, and we have a small white mailbox next to our side entrance. We still are closed to the public, but you can just drop it off there and then I'll get it and get it back to you as soon as I can. The third method is to hand your work into your DEC. Your DEC can either send your work through the Express or fax it to 807-737-1732 or toll-free fax to 1-800-463-7852. If you'd like to connect with me through social media, my Facebook and my YouTube channel are both under the name B Slate Wahsa. You can friend me on Facebook and subscribe on my YouTube channel. And then every time that I upload one of our recordings, one of our lesson recordings, then you'll get a notification. All of our classes I upload generally within 24 hours if everything goes right from airing. And there's also on my YouTube channel, there are short videos explaining common errors and confusing concepts. So that's a great place to check out if you're struggling with something. Math is a really visual subject, so I strongly encourage you to connect with the videos, either joining me live through the Zoom class or also watching the replays on YouTube. It's going to set you up for the most success. Being able to hear what I say is only one element of really understanding this material. I show visuals, I show manipulatives as much as I can, and arranging how I organize the math is part of the learning. So if you can connect with them, that's great. If you don't have reliable internet to connect with the visuals on your own, let me know and I can send you a recording on a YouTube USB key or something like that. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact me. This is why I'm here. This is my job, is to support you. So emailing me through my email address, bronwyn.slate, which is spelled BRONWYN.SLATE@nnec.on.ca. You can Facebook message me at bslatewahsa. You can call the office and connect with me there at 807-737-1488. My extension is 2209. I'm having some issues with my voicemail, so if you leave me a message, I might not actually get it. So if I don't get back to you in a couple of days, then give me another call or reach out to me in another way, just because I probably haven't heard your voicemail. You can call us toll free at 1-800-667-3703. And my office hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And that's when I will get back to you as soon as I can. All right, today we are wrapping up lesson 5. In our last session, we wrapped up lesson 4 and started lesson 5. So this is the conclusion of lesson 5. And then next week we'll be starting on unit 2, lesson 6. So we won't be doing any more split lessons for a little while at least. So looking at making purchases, today we're going to focus on being able to explain how discounts, sales prices, and after tax costs work, and that you understand provincial taxes, including how and why it's different depending on the location. Your success criteria are that you can calculate discount, sale prices, and after tax costs on various items, and that you can calculate provincial sales tax. All right, so let's start off with a mental math brain activation. So I'm not a fan of the Mad Minute tests where students sit in desks and just drill out memorized facts. I don't think that actually teaches anything. So instead of doing that in terms of working on our arithmetic facts, I focus on developing strategies that we can use in various situations that help us get comfortable with number, so that it isn't a matter about memorization, but about understanding why and how things work so that we can apply it into situations that are actually in our lives. So today's question is 77 divided by 4, and we're going to use the strategy of partial quotients. I know lots of folks really struggle with long division, and this looks a little bit like long division, but it's something that's more conceptually understandable. It makes more sense to me and many folks, and it just makes division a little bit more accessible than long division, which is just sort of memorizing steps. So we're going to set up our question the same way that we would set up a long division question, in terms of having 77, which we're dividing inside of our symbol, and 4 on the outside. The difference is that my division symbol, I've drawn this long line, which makes it look kind of like I have a long 7. Sometimes in elementary school, they call this the big 7 method, but partial quotients is really what we're doing, because we're going to do quotients in parts. We're going to divide in parts. So looking at this, how I'm organizing this is I'm saying, okay, how many groups of 4 go into 77? So to start off, I'm going to just think of friendly numbers. So I'm going to say, okay, I know that 10 groups of 4 is less than 77. So because 10 groups of 4 is 40, that's a number that is a friendly multiplication that I know. So I can organize 10 groups of 4 and take away that 40 already. I've already dealt with 40 of my objects if I'm thinking about these as objects. So that leaves me with 37 objects. Okay, so I don't have another 10 groups because 37 is less than 40. So I can't do another 10 groups, but I can do 5 groups, because 5 groups, if I know 10 groups is 40, then 5 groups, which is half of 10 groups, is going to be 20. And that's less than 37. So I'm going to deal with those 20 objects and put them into 5 groups. And now I'm left with 17. Okay, so 17, again, I don't have 5 groups. That's too much. But I can look and I can say, so depending on what I know, I can do 1 group, which would be 4. I can do 2 groups, which would be 8. I can do 3 groups, which would be 12. And I could do 4 groups, which is 16. So you could pick any of those groups depending on what you know. Do 4 groups, which is 16. And so that shares out my last, and then I'm left with just 1 item. So I've shared out as much as I can evenly, and I'm left with 1 remainder. So this helps me get a remainder. You don't have to have exactly exact amounts. And if I look at how many groups, like how many do I actually have? Well, I think, okay, I have 10 groups plus 5 groups is 15 plus 4 groups is 19. So 4 goes into 77 19 times. That gives me 19 groups. And that's how you do partial quotients, as just sort of a more friendly way of doing long division, which I find really useful. Okay, let's keep on keeping on. All right, mine's on. What do we need for today's lesson that are previous skills that hopefully we have? We need to talk about estimating. With when we're talking about prices and buying things, often estimating can be something that comes in handy. So most of us don't use exact calculations when deciding if we want to purchase an item or if we feel like it's too expensive. Where most of us, though many of us have calculators in our pockets, in our phones, we're not in stores using those calculators to decide if I have enough money or if I really feel like, including tax, that whatever I want to purchase is too much or not. So we generally estimate. We make rough approximations of what we expect the price to be. So we generally aren't calculating exactly and saying, okay, it's going to be $347.52. No, that's not what we're doing. But we might say, okay, it's going to be roughly $350 or whatever, like something like that. So often when we're estimating, if we have something like $4.99, when we're estimating, we say, well, that's about $5. If we have something like $68.74, you could say, well, $68.75 is close, or $69, or you could even just say $70 because that's a fairly friendly number. And when we're estimating, it's okay to be a little too high or a little too low. You're getting a rough idea. $10.32, you might just say $10. So it's okay to round down as well. That's fine. Again, we are not expecting an exact answer. We're expecting something that is close. That's something in the ballpark. Or $93.89, you could even still run this down to 93 is probably what I look at that and say, 93, maybe 94, maybe 90. Like it's okay if you're not right. And if you're not the closest, it's just a matter of getting an idea. Okay, so let's look at our new learning today. When will you use this in real life? Well, all the time. But we're learning how to make decisions and justify them. So yes, probably you're going to be purchasing. We all spend money. We live in a capitalist system. We're all spending money all the time. But being able to make your decisions based on the information that you have and justify them, give the reason why you're making those decisions is really important for communication, for if you're working in a business or something, being able to justify why you're choosing one thing or the other, for your family or households, being able to make decisions and decide and explain why you're making those decisions. That's all really important. So it's not just about knowing the math, but being able to feel comfortable with your reasoning behind those decisions that you're making if the math is supporting it. Okay, so first we're going to look at sales tax in provinces and territories. So this is on page 47 of your IEL book. And sales tax is used in Canada, all over Canada. And there are two types of sales tax levied. So we have provincial sales tax, which is PST, which is levied by provinces. We'll talk about why it's only called provincial sales tax in a minute. And we have goods and service taxes, which is GST, which is applied nationally. So everywhere gets applied the same tax. And then we also have harmonized sales tax, which combines PST and GST. So in different places, some places don't have PST. Ontario being one example, we used to have PST and GST, they were separate, but now we just have HST, which is a combination of PST and GST. So every province except Alberta has implemented either a provincial sales tax or harmonized sales tax. So everywhere other than Alberta has either PST or HST. The territories of Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut have no territorial sales tax. They only have GST. So they don't have the equivalent of PST. So that's why PST is provincial sales tax, because only the provinces, the territories don't have any territory specific tax. These northern jurisdictions are heavily subsidized by the federal government. And so because of the high cost of living in the north, them not having this extra tax supports the fact that where they live is very, very remote, and getting products there is really, and services is challenging. And so this is a little bit of a way to support the folks that live there in order to make cost of living a little bit more affordable. All right, so sales tax, these are the rates that we have. So in British Columbia, the rate is 7%. In Alberta, again, there's no PST, so it's 0. Saskatchewan, 7%. Manitoba is 7%. In Ontario, we have HST, so it's 13%. In Quebec, it's 7.5%. In Newfoundland and Labrador, they have HST, which is 15%, and in Nova Scotia, HST, which is 15%, and in New Brunswick, HST, which is 15%. And then Prince Edward Island has a PST of 10%, and then the Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut have no PST. There's no provincial equivalent sales tax. Okay, so let's see how that actually applies in terms of doing it, purchasing something. So if you bought a digital camera for $89.97, that's what it says, sale, $89.97. If you were buying it in BC, Nunavut, and PEI, how much would you actually pay? What would the PST be in each of those places? So we're gonna have to do this 3 times. So we're gonna organize. So we have BC, and we remember that the PST in BC is 7%. So that means that to find the amount of tax that you pay in BC, you do 89.97, the cost, times 7%, which is going to be 0.07. And that equals, we're going to use our Desmos calculator. So we have 89.97 times 0.07 is equal to $6.29, round it to 30 cents, $6.30 is how much PST that you pay in BC. Then in Nunavut, so remember PST is not applicable, so it's 0. So you would pay no PST. So you would just pay $89.97. You wouldn't pay any PST on that. And then PEI, the PST is 10%. So 89.97 times 0.10 is equal to, and then you can use your Desmos calculator, or you can just know that that's going to be $8.99.7. So really that's going to round to be $9. So in PEI, you would pay a PST tax of $9. In Nunavut, you would pay no PST tax. And in BC, you would pay a PST tax of $6.30. So depending on where you are, what you end up paying is going to be different. So this is important to think about if you are buying things in different locations, if you're on vacation, knowing that that's going to impact your purchases and how much money you have to spend. If you are buying flights, and then your tax might be slightly different depending on where you're coming from, where you're purchasing it from. So that's just all something to think about as we're thinking about purchases across the country. All right, so you're not going to do the support questions on page 46 and 47, questions 5 to 6. Those cover those provincial sales taxes. All right, now we're going to look at the goods and services tax, so GST, and this is on page 47 of your IL book. So the federal GST rate is 5%, and this is effective. This has been since January 1st, 2008. So it's been like this for a while now, 5% across the board. So everywhere in Canada, when GST is applied to purchases, then you pay 5%. But there are some examples of goods and services on which we don't pay GST or HST. So these are generally like basic goods and services, so things that are needed for surviving life, for like fundamental things that we need. So basic groceries such as milk, bread, and vegetables don't have any tax on them. Some groceries do, some food that you do buy, processed food has tax on them, but unprocessed food, that, because we all need food, doesn't have tax on them. Prescription drugs and the drug dispensing fees, they don't have tax on them. Medical devices such as hearing aids or artificial teeth Also, things like that don't have tax on them. Most healthcare, medical, and dental services don't have tax, don't have GST. And if they don't, I assume that if they don't have GST, that they don't have PST, but I don't actually know, because in Ontario we have HST, so we don't have, it's all harmonized, it's all together. So if there's no tax, there's no tax. But I don't know if you're in some place that has just PST, if you get charged PST on these things or not. That'd be something that I should look into. Okay, so then, but residential rents, legal aid services, most banking services, most childcare and education services, all of this doesn't have GST or HST. They are fundamental rights. They are fundamental things that we all need cover for, so we don't pay extra tax on them. Okay, so then how do we calculate tax, GST on things? So in Saskatchewan, you're buying a pair of rollerblades for $152.45, including tax. What do you actually pay? So before, when it just asked about PST, but if it's asking about tax in general, we need to include both PST and GST depending on where we are. So if this was a question set in Ontario, then we would just calculate HST, which we'll do in a moment. But because we're in Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan has PST and everywhere has GST. So we have to calculate them both. So I would suggest either screenshotting this page, this slide 22 that has sales tax, that has all of the tax listed, or just make sure in your IO booklet, there's also on page 47, I believe that this is all listed as well, so that you can go back and look there in case you need to. I don't have them all memorized. I might be able to figure it out, but generally I don't. So it's fine to look that up. So here, Saskatchewan has PST of 7%. So that means that for this question, we need to keep that. So we're going to have to do PST of 7% and GST of 5%. And then we can find our total cost. So we're going to have to do these three things. Okay, so for PST, we're going to do $152.45 times 0.07. That is our PST. So getting our calculator. So we have 152.45 times 0.07 is equal to $10.67. So our PST is $10.67. And then our GST, and remember your GST is going to be the same no matter where you are, so it's the same way. So we have our sales price, so our price, so $152.45 times 5%, which is 0.05. And so then we're going to use calculator to do that as well. So 152.45 times 0.05 is equal to $7.62. $7.62. So then to calculate our total cost, what we actually pay. So it's like our subtotal is $152.45, and then taxes, and then our total cost is all of them added together. So $152.45 plus $10.67 plus $7.62. And that equals, add it all together on a calculator. Always, you're welcome to do this mentally or writing it out or using a calculator. Whatever feels best for you is fine. So we get $170.74. So the total cost, or what you actually pay, is $170.74. And that's how you calculate total taxes, where you have to calculate both PST and GST. Okay, so now you can do the support questions on page 80, 48. This is question number 7. All right, and now let's look at harmonized sales tax. So this is on page 49 of your IEL book. So the harmonized sales tax, HST, is a combination of federal and provincial taxes on goods and services in 5 Canadian provinces. So the HST rate is 15% in all of the participating provinces, except Ontario, where it's 13%. The concept behind HST was to streamline the recording and collection of federal and provincial sales taxes by combining them into a single uniform levy across Canada. Again, there are some exemptions, so similar goods and services to GST are also exempt from HST. Okay, so there are 2 methods for calculating harmonized sales tax. Basically, this is the same for the other taxes as well, but we're just looking at here. You can always calculate your tax like we have done, and then add it to your original price. Or the second method is to calculate the total price all at once. So let's look how that goes. This is how your IEL book explains it, and let's see what's going on. So the first method is to calculate your 13% tax, your HST, on your item, and then add it to your item. And that's what we've been doing. We've been calculating our tax and then adding it to it. So our HST for this book, that is $19.80 So we times that by 0.13 for 13%. And that is going to be $19.80 times 0.13 is equal to $2.57. So then we add it to the total price, or the original price. So the total is $19.80 plus $2.57. As always, you can do this on your calculator or in your head, either way. I do it differently depending on how I'm feeling in the moment. If I'm feeling like my brain is working for me or working against me. So that's $22.37. $22.37 is the total price that you would pay with their tax on that book. So that's the way that we've been doing it, just depending on the type of tax that you're using. If you're doing PST, then you use the PST rate. If you're doing GST, use the GST rate. And if you're doing HST, use the HST rate. The second way that you can calculate tax is that you can calculate it all at once instead of adding it to your tax, adding it to the tax that you calculated first. So when I have here, I'm calculating 113% at once. So that 100% is including your tax, not in tax, your original price. So if I do 1980 times 113%, it's going to be 1.13. So that is just remember that 113% is equal to 1.13. If you have 100%, that is equal to 1. So if we do that on our calculator, we have 19.80 times 1.13 is equal to 22.37. And if we look to what we calculated last in the 2 steps, we got 22.37. If we look where we calculated with 1 step, we got 22.37. You can do either way. They're going to get you the same answer if you do it properly. There isn't one way that is better than the other. It is fine to do either way, whatever makes the most sense to you. It's just a matter of how your brain thinks about it, and that's totally fine. So the same way that if you wanted to, if you're calculating GST, you could do 1.05. If you wanted to do 100%, 105%, then that way you wouldn't have to add them together. Or if you're just doing PST, you could do, depending on where you are, 1.07 times your amount. So you can always do that where you are including, where you're just multiplying, including that total in that total one amount. But you also, it is completely fine to do it in 2 parts and calculate it and then add it to your original price. You can either do it different depending on the moment, depending on the situation. That is fine. You don't have to do it consistently. You just want to make sure that you're doing clearly, and you want to make sure that you're actually answering the question. So if it's asking you for the tax, then if you calculate the total, that's not telling me what the tax is, that's telling you what the total is. And if they're asking you for the total, then you want to make sure that you don't just calculate the tax. You have to either add on the original price to get the total, or you need to calculate it all at once. So it's just really important to make sure you're answering the question that's being asked, so you're getting the right information. Okay, so here's another example. Calculate the HST and the total cost of an iPhone 13 with a price of $1,099. So in this question, it asks for both the HST and the total cost. So it makes sense to do the HST first and then add it to your total cost. This does not say Ontario. The question doesn't say Ontario, but we're going to assume Ontario because that is where we are located. So because the Ontario rate is different than the other places, the other provinces. So the Ontario rate is 13%. So if we're going to calculate the HST on this iPhone 13, we do $1,099 times 0.13, and that is equal to, calculating it on our calculator, $142.87. So that is your HST. And then the total cost is going to be your HST plus your price. So $1,099 plus $142.87. So add them together. And that gives us $1,241.87. There we go. So it's also really important if one of these questions where you have multiple steps that you indicate some way that you know what you're talking about. So if you don't label them, you can maybe write a sentence at the end. So saying the HST is $142.87, and the total cost is $1,241.87. I don't want to have to assume that you know what you're talking about. So you want to make sure that it's really clear to me that you know what it is that you're talking about that's part of what I'm evaluating. So if you just have the numbers, if you just write down 142.87 and 1,241.87, then I don't know if you know what the difference is between those two things. I can assume that you do, but I don't know for certain. And what I'm evaluating is whether or not you're understanding exactly what you're doing. And so if you give me less information, I don't know, I have to make assumptions. And you don't want me to make assumptions because I might assume the wrong thing. You can't guarantee what I'm going to assume. You might think it's obvious, but it might not be obvious to me. So it's important to really clearly communicate what it is that you're talking about so that I understand what it is exactly that you understand what you're communicating. Okay, so you can do the support questions on page 50 now. Questions 8 and 9 you should be comfortable with. All right, so the next piece of making purchases is that they're often discounted items. And it's important to understand how when you're doing a discount, how that affects with tax as well. So first, we're just going to look at how you calculate a discount, and then we're going to look at how we tax items that are discounted. So there's two ways that you can calculate a discount. So here something's on sale and it says that for this example, Julie is purchasing a tennis racket and it is 40% off the regular price of $165.99. So there's two ways that you can do this again. So the first method is you can take 40% of the price and subtract it from the original price. So you find 40%. So 40%, how we do that, the same way we've been doing it with tax, is that we'd see $165.99 times 40%, which is 0.4. So you got to be careful about in terms of if it's 0.04 or 0.4 in terms of if it's 40% or 4%. I'm just gonna be careful with that when you're doing percents. So if we multiply that, we have $165.99 times 0.4, which is equal to $66.40. So $66.40 is what you are subtracting. That is the discount. So that's what you're getting off. That's not how much it's going to cost. That's how much you are not having to pay. So to figure out your sale price, you then do $165.99, take away $66.40. You can use our subtraction tools that we've already been working on, or you can use a calculator. 165.99 take away 66.40 is equal to $99.59. So the sale price is $99.59 when you take 40% off of this tennis racket. So that's the one way that you can do it, is calculating the discount and then subtracting the discount from the sales price. The second method is to figure out, instead of figuring out how much you are subtracting, how much the discount is, you can do, so 100%, you can think about it like this, where you do 100% would be the usual price, take away your discount, which is 40%, and that means that your price is going to be 60%. So this is a calculation that you might be able to just do in your head. You can just look and say, okay, if I'm taking off 40%, that means I'm going to be left with 60%. And so then you can do the sales price. And you can say, okay, $165.99 times 60%, which is 0.60. And that's going to have already subtracted off of the discount amount and left with just what you're paying. So then calculate that, 165.99 times 0.60 is equal to 99.59. $99.59. And so you can see that both ways we get the same amount, we get the same price. It doesn't change it. Okay, so then that's how we calculate discounts. But then we need to remember about sales. We have to add the sales tax back on. So this is again on page 50 of your IL book. And sales tax is always added after the discount is removed. So this is important to remember, that you do your discount and then you add your tax on. So for this example, what's the total cost of a netbook computer that is 20% off the usual price of $299? Again, we're going to assume that we're in Ontario. If it doesn't state otherwise, we're going to assume that we're in Ontario just because we are. So that means that we have HST, which is 13%. So the total cost of the computer netbook is 20% off the usual price. So that means that we are paying 80%. The sales price is 80% of the usual price. So we're going to use the second method to calculate that. So we have $299 times 0.80, and that gives us the sale price. Again, this is why it's important to label what you're doing so that I can understand. Oh, I totally did that wrong. Okay, try that again. 299 times 0.08. Forgot to put the time sign in, and then so 299 times 0.80. And that's $239.20. So that is our sales price. That is not what we're subtracting. We need to remember that what we actually calculated. So $239.80 is, nope, and 20 cents is our sale price. So then we need to calculate the tax, which is 13%. So again, we have multiple ways we can do this. Why don't we do it the other way? So we're going to do $239.20 times 0.13 to figure out what our tax is. 293.20 times 0.13 is equal to $31.10. It's our total cost. We do our sales price, so $239.20 plus our tax, which is $31.10, which is going to be $239.20 plus $31.10 is equal to $270.30. That's how you find the tax, the total price after for something that's on sale. So again, there could be different methods for you to do this. It is totally fine to do it different methods. If you do the other methods, if you were to find the discount and subtract it, or find the tax all at total price by doing it all at once, you should still get to the same answer, as long as you're not if there's no errors, no calculation errors. The concepts, there's different pathways to get to the same point, and that is totally fine. You don't have to do the same way that I'm going to do. I'm not looking for one particular method. I'm looking for understanding and accuracy. So doesn't matter which method you do, as long as you get to the right point. It's totally fine to do different ways that make sense to you. Okay, so now you can do the support questions on page 52, question number 10. And now we're going to look at estimating sales price. We talked about, remember how most of us don't actually go through with our calculators and calculate the exact price. We're going to estimate how we do that. So if we are estimating our prices, these are the steps to sort of how to do it. That's usually useful. This is on page 53 of your IL book. So you round the price, so you get it to a dollar amount that is going to be a friendly number. If you have a discount, then you could estimate your discount. If you don't, ignore that. And then you estimate your HST. So your HST, remember, is 13%, which is equal to 10% plus 3%. And 3% is about 1/3 of 10%, because 3% plus 3% plus 3% is 9%. So if we're estimating, we're not looking exactly, we can say about 1/3 of our tax is added on top of the 10%. So let's see what that actually plays out to look like. So we have an HST, we're going to estimate the HST for these questions. So we have $29.99 t-shirt. So I'm going to round that to $30 and say, okay, so it's about a $30 t-shirt. So then 10% of a $30 t-shirt, well, is going to be $3. And about 1/3 of that is going to be 1/3 of $3 is $1. So roughly we can say that our HST is going to be about $4. And that's what I mean by estimating. So that means that we know that the cost for this t-shirt is going to be roughly $34. Not exactly, but roughly. That's all that we're looking for. Okay, so now we have a Lego set, same idea. We have $54. And so we could just do $54. We can do $55. We could do $50. We could do $60. Whatever those ones we're estimating, it's okay to do different amounts. I'm going to do $55 because that feels like a friendly number to me that's fairly close. So 10% of $55 is $5.50. And then 1/3 of that, well, this is almost $6. So 1/3 of $6 would be $2. Again, we're estimating, so it's okay that it's not exactly right. So I'm just going to say $2, even though that's not exactly 1/3 of $5.50. It's okay, we're estimating. So that means that our HST is going to be about $7.50. And that's how we estimate our HST when we are shopping. Okay, so let's do some more examples where we're going to break down in terms of doing what our estimates are and then what our actual costs are, so you can see how close they are. So here we have a calculator for $15.79, and it's got a discount of 15%. So first we're going to the regular price. I'm just going to round that to, because we're estimating, I'm going to round that to $16. So if we're estimating taking the sales price of that, so what is, if we take our 15% off? Well, I'm going to think, okay, so 15% is of $16. Well, 10% of $16 is $1.60, and 5% of $16, well, I can see, I know that 5% is half of 10%. So I know that half of $1.80, or sorry, 60 cents is 80 cents. So that means my total discount is going to be, so that my 15% is going to be $2.40 is how much my discount is. So my estimated sales price, if I'm taking off $2.40, I'm just going to round that to say $2.50 because that's an easier number. Because we're estimating, we're allowed to just do that. We're allowed to just change. This is one of the situations where we are just allowed to change if we're estimating. So $16 take away $2.50. Well, $16 take away $2 is $14. Take away 50 cents. My sales price is going to be approximately $13.50. So then to estimate my HST on this, so my HST, remember, is 13%. So we're going to do 10% of $13.50 is going to be $1.35. And then 1/3 of that is going to be, okay, so 1/3 of $1 is 33 cents. And 1/3 of 35 cents, well, 1/3 of 33 cents is 11 cents. So I'm going to say 11 cents plus 33 cents is 44 cents. So again, it's just, remember, we're just estimating. It's okay that it's not exactly right. You could do different numbers than me. That's fine. So then I'm going to say, okay, so $1.35 plus 44 cents. Though it is not exactly, I'm going to say that's about $2. So my HST is about $2 because we're estimating. Therefore, my total cost is about $15.50. So there we go. So now we're going to do the actual sales price. So we're going to use our calculator now to see how close we actually are getting. So we're going to use the regular price, the actual, no rounding. So we're going to do $15.79 times 15%. So 0.15 is equal to $2.37. So we're going to do $15.79 take away $2.37, and that gives us our actual sales price. So our actual sales price is $13.42. Okay, so then our actual HST. So we're going to do $13.42 times 0.13, which is equal to $1.74. So our actual HST is $1.74. And then we find our actual cost. So we do $13.42 plus $1.74. And we end up with an actual total cost of $15.16. $15.16. We estimated it to be $15.50. And so that's pretty close. It's less than $1 off, less than 50 cents off. That's pretty close in terms of estimating. So even though we rounded it a bunch of places, we got something that was fairly close. I also prefer to have it a little bit more to say, okay, I expected it to be $15.50 and it was $15.16 because then I feel like I got a deal. And also then I'm like, if I have enough money to cover $15.50 in my pocket, that means I'm gonna have enough money to cover 50 cents and 16 cents in for actual price. Okay, so we are not going to do the next one just because we are almost out of time. I don't want to end up in the middle. So you can do the same thing, the same idea again with a discount rate of 1/3. So you could think of, well, here, I'm going to do it quickly. So 59 for bookcase, 59.98 is close to $60. So 1/3 of $60 is $20. So that means that the estimated sales price would be $40. And then to estimate HST, 10% of $40 is $4. 1/3 of that is going to be about $1.30. So our HST is about $5.30. So our cost is $45.30 roughly. And so again, we can do this fairly quickly on our calculator. 59.98 times, we're going to times it by 2/3 because that's how much we are actually paying. So the actual cost is $39.99. And then if we times that by 1.13 to include the total cost and the tax, we get $45.18 is our actual cost. So I didn't write them all down, but I did on calculator, $45.18. So we estimated it to be $45.30 and our actual cost was $45.18. So it's pretty easy to get pretty close to what you want with estimating, which is why it's a great tool if you're when you're out shopping. Okay, so you can do the support questions on page 55, questions 11 to do those estimation questions. So quickly, we'll race through consolidating. So for making purchases, we talked about sales tax, which is PST, GST, goods and sales tax, and harmonized sales tax, HST. And then we talked about discounts. The discounts are taken off first and then taxes added. And then estimating, we ran the price, estimate the discount if it's applicable, if it's there, and then estimate our HST, which is 10% plus 1/3 more. So hopefully at this point, success criteria number 1, you can do, I can calculate discounts, sales prices, and after tax costs of various items. And 2, you can calculate provincial sales tax. As always, if you want to get a hold of me, the usual ways, I am here to support you however I can. So give me a call at the office, 807-737-1488 or 1-800-667-3703. You can email me at bronwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca and Facebook me at bslatewasa. I'll upload a recording of our lesson today onto YouTube later today, hopefully. And hopefully this was a useful lesson and you were able to now calculate tax. Thanks so much for joining me. Mogwitch.